Hi, I'm your Gemini friend. This video is going to cover Scorpio North Node or North Node in the 8th house. I have a video in the description that goes over the North and South Node a little bit more, but when it comes to whether it's the house or the sign, what you want to look at is the sign as kind of like the characteristics that your North Node is going to be acting out through, the way it will behave, and the house is more the area of life that this should be a focus in. The North Node is opposite the South Node. South Node represents energy that we come into this life with an excess of and need to lean more into our North Node placement in order to balance that out. And some people's charts are more geared toward their North Node energy. Some people have a lot of South Node energy in their general personality. So a lot of this is going to depend the level, how much it varies for you. But ultimately, the axis of the North and South Node is about balancing karmic energy, past life energy, or just very strong personality traits that it's going to be fulfilling to us to use the opposing energy in order to have a more balanced approach to life and the way that we are behaving. Because these South Node traits can be pretty unconscious, and getting into this one, North Node in Scorpio means your South Node is in Taurus. North Node in the 8th house means your South Node is in the 2nd house. Taurus and 2nd house energy. This can be a heavy one, almost literally, because when it comes to Taurus energy, this is like lifetimes of this accumulation energy built up. It's like collecting things. This can be emotional, it can be literal physical things, and it often is. So this is my placement. My North Node is in Scorpio. I greatly understand. So let's start with what this South Node Taurus influence feels like. Taurus is possessive. Taurus is ruled by Venus, and the 2nd house, it all is associated with things, with what we value. It does not have to be tangible, physical things, but Taurus accumulates. Taurus likes to have something to show for its effort. What this can really manifest as is keeping things around beyond their usefulness. And I will say that in preparing to make this video, I had to stop and throw away so much stuff. And I feel so much better now. So if you find that you are accumulating things, years and years and years worth of things, it's gonna be a really great first step to just clear up this energy by releasing what you don't need, because what that does is it makes room for new stuff to come in. Scorpio energy is all about transformation and really the concept of looking at what needs to be done, the hard stuff, the darker stuff, and doing it. Facing things that people don't necessarily want to face. And this can be really relevant when it comes to throwing away things. So with the South Node in this Taurus energy, there is actually a really strong tendency to feel like you need to prove your worth. Like who you are just inherently doesn't quite feel like enough. And the most important thing with this axis is that when you focus on using the Scorpio energy, this 8th house energy, like when you look at the 8th house, it has to do with partnerships and shared things. That's the opposite between Taurus and Scorpio. Taurus wants things to be theirs. It wants ownership. It wants something to show for its hard work because it's such a hardworking sign, very diligent. This points to having a really hardworking personality. But the 8th house energy, the Scorpio, it points to the idea of this shared vulnerability, the trust and intimacy that comes with shared accumulations. 8th house is associated with inheritances, receiving money, other people's money, sharing, having that mutual trust where two people are working towards the same goal together and very deeply trusting each other. This is the energy that you want to lean into. I understand this feeling of wanting to be the sole owner of your stuff, your idea, your process even, but that can be one of the biggest things that trips up people with this placement. essentially it's like trying to reinvent the wheel, because you want so strongly to do things your own way. You want complete ownership of not just the reward, but the entire process. So there can be a very strong aversion to other people giving you their advice, telling you their way of doing things. It is most likely that your immediate response to somebody saying, oh, you're doing it the hard way, here, let me show you how to do it an easier way, is just like, nope, that's stubborn Taurus energy. I am doing it my way. My way is the way that is tried and true. But the thing is that in this lifetime, you've come in with this energy of stagnancy. It's like stale ways of going about things, because they are tried and true, because they are the way that you have always done it, usually through past lifetimes. This input from other people is actually going to be the most valuable thing that you can possibly have. When I'm talking about value, Taurus, second house it's our material possessions. It's what we have that is of value. So when we are associating our value with things external to us, or even with our bodies, with our appearance, with our ideas, when we associate our inherent value with these external things, what we're doing is we're overlooking our actual value as a person. That's why there can even be a tendency with this placement to kind of downplay your own talents, because they're easy, because not necessarily easy, but because they come naturally to you. If you have something that comes naturally to you and other people are like, wow, you're so good at this, it's not like you're not proud of it, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like something that you've worked hard for. You might prefer to get like praise and validation from something that you've put a lot of effort into. But what's so important about having other people's input is that other people are able to see your value much more clearly than you can, because of this tendency to associate value with things and with what we've done and with hard work. So by allowing other people's perspective into the situation, you're actually learning your own value. You're learning what other people see is so great about you that you can't see yourself. Especially like when I'm talking about talents, I'm saying because these things come so naturally to you that since it's just kind of like a natural part of your life, you're not necessarily going to see just how incredible you are in those areas. This is why we really need other people as a mirror, as partners. Partnership is so incredibly important when it comes to this placement. It is essentially the goal in a way. Partnership can be any type of really strong alliance with somebody else that you are committed to and they are also committed to. Essentially, the point is that it's not all yours. This project is not yours. This job is not yours. This relationship, romantic partners. This is why this Scorpio 8th house energy balances it so well, because when you are devoted to a joint effort, a joint goal, even if the goal is just to have a great relationship, that takes you away from that old stagnant energy where you're doing it your way, where you're judging things by your own value system. But in the way that we are kind of judging ourselves by what we can do, what we have accumulated, this can point to a tendency towards excess, doing things excessively, keeping things, holding on to them, because it's the stubbornness. It can be difficult to get rid of things that are yours because of that strong ownership quality. It can be difficult to change your process because it's yours. This is the way that you've done it. But if your South Node is in Taurus or the second house, it really is going to be not just a better idea to do things other people's way. The point is that when you allow other people to have input, you are actually easing so much of this heaviness that comes with the placement. Because, like I say with Taurus and accumulation, like this is accumulated karma and ideologies from times back when they were useful. But in this life, they're not useful anymore. You need an outside view to help streamline the process or just something to share. Because having the strong attachment to things being purely yours is where that strong sense of heaviness comes. We want other people to come and help us share the burden. And your natural personality, you've got this Taurus influence. Taurus has that stick-to-itiveness. The stubbornness can translate into a wonderful, long-suffering ability to really get the task done, to go all the way, take it slow and steady. And this is a very valuable trait. Other people can see that in you, and you come across as dependable. But the best way for you to use this energy in this lifetime is actually going to be helping, empowering other people with their goals. Being a support, having a mutual partnership type way of going about anything that you're trying to achieve is going to initially be probably a stressful idea. But ultimately, once you give into it, once you allow yourself to at least look at the other person's viewpoint and see why they're doing it that way, then you will find that things will be so much lighter for you. But this is where the Scorpio is so necessary, because obviously you can't just take anyone's advice and, okay, yeah, sure, I'll do it your way. You have to have that discrimination, the ability to go in and probe through someone's intentions. Because when your North Node is in Scorpio, or influenced by this energy, you have that natural investigative nature. It's Scorpio is suspicious. So if you use that natural tendency towards suspicion, where you're just trying to figure out what are your motives? Why are you trying to make me do this? Why do you think that this is a better way? By using that curiosity and that desire to understand things on a deeper level, you are able to actually decide, oh, okay, I actually see why they are saying that I should do this. Or, okay, this person doesn't know what they're talking about and I'm going to continue doing it my way. You have this natural ability to really tap into other people's intentions in a way. So use it. And this makes the process of allowing other people in much less scary. But I know this feeling, the feeling of, okay, this is my project, and if I wasn't the one who did 100% of the work, then I feel like I can't accept the end result because it's not mine. It's not completely mine. But that is something that you are going to have to overcome, because I promise you, when you work with somebody else and allow their process to be a part of, you're combining your forces, that is where the real success is going to come from. And you can always look at the areas where you are particularly stubborn and just really analyze your behavior and whether or not it is actually worth it. There can be there's just such a huge aversion to seeing other people's way of doing it, even looking at it, because you don't even want to be influenced by it. You're like, no, if I have taken influence from somebody else, it's not mine anymore. But this energy, it's holding you back. And when you do lean into this stubborn energy where you are doing things your way, there can also be a tendency to want to tell people your way, to kind of force your way on them, because for you, you're like, this is the way and I want to help them and I want them to see that this is the best way to do it. But this can actually alienate people from you, because you might not realize that you are coming across as pushy as you are, and I'm so guilty of this. But it makes people feel like they don't want to step on your toes, and it can make them uncomfortable around you. And since this is a lifetime that is so focused on letting other people in, obviously we don't want to do that. There can be a need for humility in this lifetime, because the thing is, we have likely spent lifetimes doing things really, really well and having other people appreciate what we've done, appreciating our effort and appreciating us, and we have taken that on to be our value. But having this placement indicates that that's not what's going to work anymore. So appreciate the praise that you've gotten in the past, and accept that now you can use this strong energy to support other people. And Scorpio, when it is interested in another person, whether that be romantic, business partnership. It can even be like group partnerships. It doesn't necessarily have to be two people only, so long as the group is something very intimate, that way where you know that you can trust everyone involved. But of course, the first step is to like develop that ability to look into other people's intentions, and you have to do that. And in order to do that, you do have to step out of your stubborn little Taurus box. But like I was saying, with the Scorpio interest in something or someone, it goes all in. It turns into a full investigator. It wants to understand every aspect of it, and that is such a good energy for you. Another thing about Scorpio is this transformative aspect. It craves change. It wants to break down things that are not working entirely so that we can actually have a nice, clear, firm foundation to start on. Because with this placement, your foundation that you have come into this life with, it's already built up. There's actually a huge need for you to tear it down. Obviously, keep the traits that you like about yourself that are working for you, but there is a need to sift through things and see what's not working for you anymore, and that's the Scorpio. So it can be obviously difficult with stubborn Taurus energy, but if you find that you are uncomfortable, so long as it is not, you know, like, obviously not like if you have a good reason to be uncomfortable. What I mean is uncomfortable with the situation in a way that feels like change is good. Change is really good. And the more that you lean into the change energy, the more that you will get out of that stagnant heaviness that comes with this. Experimentation, such a good thing for this, okay? If you have always done something one way, just try one day to do it a different way. You can always decide to go back to your old way, but trying new things, you can learn so much that way. And the best way to get new ways of doing things is to ask other people for their input. One really healthy thing you can do with this placement is to use that curiosity, even the paranoid energy, to ask other people, okay, so I do it this way, how do you do it? And when you learn that their way is different, ask them why, ask them how they arrived there, ask them what they're getting out of it, ask them if they always do it the same way. Just any questions that you can think of that come up, be curious. Because the best thing that you can do is like really indulge in those energies that are different from yours. And I'm saying the word indulge, so let's get into that. Taurus energy, second house energy. This is definitely an indulgent one. Taurus is incredibly sensual. It likes to experience life on a very material level, physical level. It likes to experience things in that super Venus way where we're like using all the senses, really enjoying everything about whatever it is that we're doing. This can be anything that you can do to excess. This can be online shopping. This can be having more and more things. It can be eating. It can be drinking. It can be anything that you can do too much. These are the sorts of things that you want to watch. This can actually be one of those situations where it's better to just quit completely instead of like, obviously moderation is the key, but moderation for this type of stubbornness is not necessarily the most helpful thing. Obviously, you know what's good for you, but I would recommend, just from personal experience and absolutely understanding this, it can be really helpful to just stop completely, because then you've taught yourself, okay, I don't have to do this. And while it seems like discipline is a strong point for this, since Taurus has such an ability to stick with things, it's really not a strong point. When it comes to something that you enjoy, you probably want to do it as much as possible. So another way that the Scorpio energy can come in here is through the extremes that happen when we're talking about transformation. Think of like the Tower card in tarot. The Tower, it needs to happen. It needs to be fully broken down so that we can start new, but it can seem like a disaster. It can be catastrophic. And in this way, this can kind of be how things go when it comes to quitting habits that aren't helping you. Again, speaking personally, I have found that if there's something that I'm doing to excess, I'll do it until it makes me sick or something. And then it's not so much of a problem to quit. But it's ideal to not have to reach that point, but it really, this can definitely be something that happens with this. So when you are having these catastrophic moments, figure out what you can do with it and how you can use this energy really to go in a positive direction. There's just this feeling that like, okay, if something is good, more will be better. And I mean, you learn that it doesn't work that way. Because one part of looking for more and more is that we are looking for something that is missing. And that is what comes from putting our values on things outside of ourselves. We need to build a really firm foundation of like internal security in who we are. And by learning what other people find valuable in us, and very much by helping them, by using our strength to further their goals, by combining our efforts, this is a really wonderful way to learn your value. Of course, just because of that, the Taurus bubble, like we're in a bubble and it's hard to see outside of it. It makes sense, this focus on ownership. Of course, having things outside of us are going to be what helps break through that. The idea that we have to do everything, it's heavy. And of course, this can definitely point to money karma. Lessons that we need to learn involving money, involving what we have to offer that is of value. Because hard work, you will likely find that the harder you work, and that's it. You don't necessarily get more rewards when it's just you working hard to try to prove yourself, with money, with things. It can even manifest in like working so hard towards the goal of like working out more and more and more, and then you've exhausted your body and it doesn't really fill that void. And other people are the answer, that intimate bond with another person, the sense of giving up ownership and allowing the co-ownership to exist. You're getting the feedback from the other person, you're both working on it together, and it's so much more stable when you're not carrying it all yourself. Because when it comes to money, money is an energy that needs to flow. It needs to be spent and we get it back. But you don't get as much when you hoard it, because what you're doing is you're sending out the message that you need to keep it. There's no trust in the process involved. Scorpio represents trusting in higher powers, in that we will be provided for. It's getting rid of the stagnancy by allowing other energies in, and by trusting that the give and the take, that we will receive back what we're giving. Because what you put your attention into, you get more of. So when you're putting your attention into lack, or into, I need to keep all of my stuff safe, that's what you will get more of, more reasons to affirm that your stuff isn't safe. But if you give freely and expect that you will get a fair return, then you will. Because that's the nature of money and resources. The earth provides for all of us. Energetically, it's just how it works. And this lesson can be really difficult in this lifetime. Not because of the money, but because we're equating our value to the money, or to how much we can make, or what we are able to purchase. That's not where our value lies. Our value is in our ability to support other people. Our value is in us inherently, and trying to prove it, that just gets us more, you need to prove your worth. But through other people, we're able to see our value more clearly. And when it comes to trusting that things will be okay, you should always consider these crisis type situations to be redirection. You might think that if you are just steadily working at something, then your circumstances will stay certain. But because of this accumulated energy, change is going to happen. So when it does, you need to lean into it and trust that it's for the better, because if you trust that it's for the better, it will be. But if you trust that it's for the worse, you'll get more worse until you'll attract circumstances that affirm that to you. So trust people, allow other people to be there for you, to support you. But if you find that people are not supporting you and they're not there for you, this is another thing to investigate. It is quite likely that you have done something that makes other people think that you don't want their support, because this is the energy that we send out. It's like, no, I've got it. But when you haven't got it, you want people to be there to support you. So you need to support them first so that you've got this reciprocal energy. This need to rely on other people's energy it's so strong here, because if you've seen the North Node in Taurus video, it's all about self-reliance and learning to not have to rely on other people anymore. So obviously the opposite is learning to trust other people, and learning to trust that there are other forces that will help you. You don't have to do everything alone. I think of this as like, say you've got your little stream of where you're going, everything that you're putting into it. Consider the opinions of other people, their input, to be like little branch streams going into your stream. It's adding fresh water, it's making it bigger, it's making it flow better, it's making it cleaner. If that's a visual that helps at all, just allow these multiple streams of fresh opinions, this fresh change, the idea of breaking up the monotony. That's what we're looking for. And another thing that comes with like the materialism, the considering our values to be, our value to be on things outside of us, there can be issues with comparison here. So take care not to compare yourself to other people, because that's useless. You know, you're you, and when you are helping other people see their value, affirming their worth, they in turn will see your worth and they'll tell you about it, and then you'll learn and you can focus on those things instead of focusing on what you don't have that other people have. Comparison is something to really avoid here. And it's also important not to like criticize other people's way of doing things. If you do, just keep it in your head. Don't let it come out of your mouth, because that can be more demoralizing than you can even realize, which causes people to not support you as much because they might be afraid of being put down for their process. And a lot depends on your energies, how much more in tune with other people's, and of course your natal chart energies could be more in tune with other people naturally. I'm not just saying you're a jerk. What I'm saying is that we cannot even notice that by take a situation where a common one where, say everyone's like, okay, where should we go to eat? And you're like, I don't care, just pick something. And then every suggestion that comes up, you've got something to say. Like, no, not that, no. And that sort of thing, it's discouraging to other people because they assume that things are just gonna be shot down. It's just something to watch for. Just check and see if you do that. And if you do, take care to allow other people to choose, to give their reasons, just in any sort of circumstances like that. Because it always feels better to be appreciated than to have stuff put down, you know? And you want help in this lifetime, so anything that would cause people to think that you don't need help or that you don't want help, avoid those things. And another thing about Taurus is that it loves to be comfortable. Comfort is such a big thing with Taurus. You know what Scorpio likes? It's to be, it can be to make other people uncomfortable, to approach situations in a way that that's not the goal here. We are wanting to take the approach where we're just leaning in deeper. We're trying to figure out the truth. The truth doesn't care about what is comfortable. Scorpio, it's confrontational. This confrontation, termination, investigation. I made that up. But the key here is mutual efforts. Obviously, don't drop your values. Your values are valuable and they are contributing, but let it be 50-50. Don't go the opposite extreme and like totally deny what you want because you're like, okay, fine, if they're gonna do it, then I'll just let them have it completely. That's not the goal either. We want to contribute because we have very valuable energy to put into the situation. It's that sharing that we want to do. And you can help other people with this probing, investigative energy. They don't always necessarily realize what their motivations are. They might be doing something in a way that, like, say your way, you think it's the best way, but it's technically not the most efficient way for this particular situation. Okay, let's see what their approach is. Their approach is also not quite the best way. So if you can really investigate what in your way, what in their way, like why are we doing this? Just keep asking why, keep going deeper. And this can solve problems for both sides, and you can then combine your forces and do something much better than either of you could have done alone. That's the whole point here, is to make something better than anything that you could do on your own or they could do on their own. Just imagine the difference in energy of doing a task solely on your own, carrying all of the weight, and then splitting it up and allowing that help. When things are lighter, it goes against the natural Taurus slow and steady, but it creates momentum. Like, when you do things too slowly, you're not building up momentum. But when you are working with another person, you have to match their pace, you have to work together, and when the process is fast, it's less work for you. This is why it's so important, is because we have spent lifetimes working the hard way. And when it comes to change, if we're doing something the same way our entire life, like, think if you have any habits that you have had since childhood, you've never switched it up. Those are the sort of things that we want to look at. Because change is good, it's healthy, it indicates growth. And Scorpio is all about growth. It's about getting rid of what's not working anymore. And a good way to make decisions is to determine if, like, say one choice is the tried and true, this seems comfortable, I can definitely do this, and the other one seems like a challenge, maybe a risk, so long as you are calculating that it's not just like a risk for the sake of a risk, but you know the direction that it's going and it's just going to be more difficult for you, it's a little more risky, that is going to be the key, the way to do it. You want to seek that excitement, the feeling that breaks up all the stagnant energy. Another thing to be a little careful with here is if you are asking people for their feedback, asking people for their reasoning behind their process, their motivation, all of that, make sure that you don't listen just to tell them that you would do it differently. I feel like that's an area where people can get tripped up. Like, step one, ask for input. Step two, take the input. You don't have to do it, but don't reject it. You want to welcome fresh new energy and new ideas as much as you can, because just learning them, it's not gonna hurt you. It's going to give you more to work with. And Scorpio is a very spiritual sign. Like, Taurus is very material. It's not a not spiritual sign, but it's very focused on the material and what we have physically. Scorpio is much more concerned with things beyond this realm. It can be into supernatural things, like occult things, obviously that taboo interest in, like, death, and just the darker things that are not necessarily polite. But Scorpio is so intuitive. It's got that spiritual connection. It's got the ability to intuit things just straight up out of the air. And this is also the trust, the spiritual trust in the universe, the riskiness, the knowing that you will be provided for, and the putting trust in other people. It's all very Scorpio. So if you have opportunities come to you, special treatment that you're getting, if you have people offering things to you that you're like, that seems too good to be true, I didn't work too hard for it. No, accept the opportunities, look for the opportunities, expect the opportunities. These are coming to you. It's almost like a test, like, okay, will they take it this time? Will they understand that things don't have to always be done their hard way? There are opportunities all around you. There are people all around you who want to help. So, of course, be very discerning in who you are allowing into your very personal space. Scorpio is suspicious for a reason, because it can feel what other people are wanting to get out of things. So use that psychic sense before getting into anything, but you do want to get into something, a deep, trusting, mutual partnership. And you want to allow these gifts into your life, because if you're not accepting them, you really are sending out the signal that you want things to continue to be harder. Accepting help brings more help, and help doesn't mean that you are weak. Needing help doesn't mean anything. Everybody is here. We're all working together. We all have our strengths and weaknesses. And that can be a good way to look for a partner. Look for somebody who has your weaknesses as their strengths. It is so incredibly helpful and fulfilling to have such a balanced, wonderful, like symbiotic relationship where you're feeding off of each other in a healthy way, where you're feeding into each other, I guess. The energy grows, and that flow between the two of you, the energy exchange, it keeps things fresh, it keeps things lighter, and we want to look for lighter. We want to do new, change, fresh, and don't avoid things just because they're uncomfortable. Big tendency with this placement to stay in situations much, much longer than you need to, because it's something that, I mean, this diligence and this strong committed factor of Taurus can keep you in things that are not good for you anymore. So that need for termination that comes from Scorpio, we have to lean into that and allow things to end, like just trying to keep things that are naturally falling apart, let them fall apart. Welcome the change. And if you have piles of stuff that you haven't gone through in years, it feels so good to throw them away. You might be shocked at what you've been keeping. It's just not good energy to keep around. This is a good placement to practice minimalism, if at all possible. And question your habits. Question things that you've been doing regularly, because there is that tendency to just do things because it's the way you've always done them, because they feel right. I'm not telling you to change anything. I'm just saying that change is gonna feel good. And if you're having a problem, ask, outsource, get other people's feedback. That's going to be the number one most helpful thing in your life. Don't be afraid of looking weak. Don't feel like you need to be the rock for everybody, that you need to appear fully stable. That authenticity that will come through when you are asking for genuine help, when you're just explaining your situation, you likely have a very one-track mind way of thinking of things. You've always done it this way. So that input, it's gonna be incredibly valuable. And it also can help soften up things. Like if people see you as somebody who is more rigid, allowing their input can soften the relationship so much and make them more willing to support. Mutual support is what we are going for here. And I think I'm talking in circles now, so I'm going to stop it here, but let me know what you think. Very curious. This is obviously very personal for me. I completely understand. So I'm curious to hear what your input is, since I'm experiencing it in my way. So thank you for watching. I do offer personal readings if you ever want a natal chart reading or a synastry reading. And that will be all. Thank you so much for watching. I love you. Bye.